Hey guys, it's Melissa here from melissaoatman.com. Welcome to another episode of Awaken Your Inner Awesomeness. I am so delighted you're here with us today. We have a very special guest. Today we have with us Miss Donna Tashjian. She is a Life Masters coach, and she also has her own podcast called You Were Designed for Greatness. And she does a lot of really other cool things too, but she is here today to talk to us about how to really work on changing our lives so that we can awaken our awesomeness in our everyday lives. She does a lot of work with people in helping them to overcome trauma in their lives. So I cannot wait to really meet Donna and hear her story and find out how she started making other people's lives as awesome as she is. So thank you so much, Donna, for being here today.
Thank you, Melissa. It is my pleasure to be here today and to share here. So I've been looking forward to, I love the name and your theme of what you're doing with your podcast. We all could use a dose of encouragement.
Absolutely, especially in today's world and the way that things are going. So, thank you so much for being here to do that. And before you start sharing with us some of your best tips for how to really bring some awesomeness into our everyday lives, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you start helping other people build better lives for themselves?
Um, it's often said that people who coach on some type of traumatic past had one. And that would be true for me as well. I was a mother at the age of 15. And there's a whole story that's on my first episode of my podcast. So we're going to mention that later. So you can go check that full story out there. But I've always been the girl that people were talking to and saying, I can't believe I'm telling you this. And I would find myself supporting them through difficult points in their life. So it was just something that I always loved to do. And it just kept happening. And so as far as me personally goes, I am married. Have 3 married children. I have grandchildren. And I live in the beautiful state of Michigan, and I love to spend time in nature and reading and a cup of tea and jazz. Those are some things and I have 2 puppy dogs also. And so all of that stuff keeps me really busy in the things that I love. But one of my most favorite things is helping women to overcome the things, the labels we put on ourselves, the stigmas that we perhaps placed on ourselves that prevents us from being awesome. It prevents us to stepping into our greatness. My podcast name goes with yours. It's like they're both awesome and greatness. And it's that kind of theme of helping people to rise above the pain and disappointment that life can bring. And it doesn't have to happen in childhood. It could, but there's pain and disappointment in so many of our lives, and we can get stuck there without knowing how to move forward.
Yeah, I think you're right. And there's a lot of people who we kind of want to fall into that victim mode, like, oh, this happened to me, so that's why I can't have a wonderful life. That's why I can't ever be successful. So now you're working with people to teach them
Mm.
how to move outside of that being, I use that all the time, stuck, feeling stuck.
Yeah.
So how do you help people when they come to you and they're saying, look, I just can't get anywhere in life, I'm unhappy with my life? How are you helping them to put more or to recognize maybe their greatness?
The one of the first steps is huge, that you recognize that you're not where you want to be. Is that recognition I call saying where I am on my own map, because I can't get to a new destination without really owning where I am.
Yeah.
I had a funny story when we first moved to Michigan area, and my husband's in his car and he's asking, do I take the east or the left kind of thing to get to where I want to go? And I'm saying, I can't give you directions. I don't know where you are.
Yeah.
And I didn't know the location he was at. East or west could mean a lot of things depending upon where your starting point is.
Right.
And so many times we don't really be super honest with ourselves about, I don't like this part about myself or my life, and I want this instead. I would like to have this instead. So being really honest is one of the first steps of going in that direction. I call it turning our baggage into luggage. So we can
I
create,
love that.
so we can create the life we love and feel awesome and feel significant and feel like what we do matters. So the next thing is that I share people is look for the gift. Looking for the gift in the adversity is when you're in the middle of it, you don't want to hear that. But if you begin to do it, let me explain it this way. Baggage thinking is, this shouldn't have happened. This was wrong. Somebody needs to pay. This wasn't just, this wasn't fair. This wasn't right. All of that is true, most likely, about whatever happened in your life. But if we stay there, we'll stay stuck.
Yeah.
And that's baggage. Luggage thinking is, I can't change that. It happened, but I'm going to use it to grow and be stronger and be the best me that I can be. So what is it that I can learn? What is the gifts that I can take from that to become even better and even stronger than perhaps I would have if that hadn't happened to me? And so that's number 2. Number 3's, there's 4 of them. Number 3 is beginning compassion and forgiveness for yourself and others. We can do a whole episode on that particular topic, and learning to be able to how to do that. What does forgiveness actually mean? What does it not mean? But that is a key. And the 4th one is to get support. When we've gone through difficulty, one of the main thing we do is retreat, either physically or inside. We all have that place we hide. If you've gone through any trauma, you have that place that you go to. And so learning to be able to not be a DIYer, I got to figure this out on my own. For those of us who've been through that, trust is an issue. And so learning to be able to find someone that you can trust that has walked the road ahead. We don't have to do it alone. Get a coach, get a counselor, get a support, get someone who knows how to help you accelerate the process. So this doesn't have to go on for decades of learning how to get over. It doesn't have to be able to move forward. So those are some things that turn your baggage into luggage.
I love the point you bring up about not being a DIY person, because I think a lot of people do that. They'll say, well, there's all these tools out here, and I can go and I can do a meditation, or I can do this, or I can do that.
Right.
And I think that takes you only so far, because then we get kind of stuck again in, I've done this, I've tried that, I feel a little better, but it's still not healed completely.
There is taking the knowledge that you read in a book, listen to on a podcast, go to a seminar. I mean, we've all got books on our shelves that we partially read, but it isn't the knowledge, it's how to apply it. That's the key. It's because I've got some old cookbooks that don't have pictures in it. They're really hard to try to figure, what is this supposed to look like? My husband is Armenian, and their food is not like anything I've ever experienced. I don't know what this is supposed to look like. And so when I make it, I'm like, is this what it's supposed to look like? Because I just tried to follow the directions. And we do that with books. It's like we try to figure out how it's supposed to look, but without someone who wrote the book or someone who knows what they're doing to walk us through it, we end up just being more frustrated. And sometimes we just throw the book in the corner. That doesn't work, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing too is we don't always, we have this blind spot about ourselves, in that we can't always see what's going on in our own lives either. How many times does somebody say to you, they want advice, oh, do you like this person that I'm dating? And they don't see the 50 million red flags that are waving all over the place, but you do as their friend, because they're not being treated well. We can't always see those things about ourselves. We can't see that I'm struggling with finances because it's a worth issue or whatever, so that's the other thing about working with someone, is oftentimes they will see things that you don't or can't.
We can't see our blind spots, hence they're blind. We can't see them. But yes, that's one of the main things that a lot of aha moments when I work with my clients is because they're like, "Ah, how come I didn't see that?"
Yeah.
And those kind of moments when people are going through it through their journey to awesomeness. So
So, what are some tips that you would give people out there listening who maybe are thinking, I'm not really living a joyful life right now. I'm not really where I want to be. What are some things they could maybe start to do at least to help get them in the right direction?
well, the four things I just shared would be a great place to start. If you do those four, you will begin to move forward. And so one of the things that I have discovered in my quest for this shouldn't take forever. It's like begin to work, and they've been in counseling for years and they're still going around the same bush. And it's like, and helping them is I've done a lot of research, which brings me to the awesomeness part of how to be able to create a life we love, to create a life where we feel awesome and significant and matter. And one of the things that I have discovered is, and it is that we have 6 super power gifts, would be word. Some people call them a mental faculty, but we have gifts inside of us that are kind of like sleeping giants that we really haven't awakened. And actually, when we don't use them properly, we use them so they hurt us. And one of the gifts, for example, I'm doing a workshop in just a few weeks. It'll be actually just a week. So I will share with you guys where you can get more information on this. But one of them is imagination. Now, a lot of times when we use these gifts improperly, it's an example of where we would be, let's say, cutting an apple with a knife, and you've never used a knife before. And so you turn it backwards and you're trying to saw through this apple because it's not going to go easy. And in the process, you probably cut yourself. And you throw the knife away and you say, I'm not using a knife anymore. That doesn't work. And that's the way these 6 sleeping gifts are. And imagination is one of them. For example, when we're a child, we use imagination we're going to be an astronaut, we're going to be a fireman, we're going to be a princess, we're going to be a whatever it is. And it's so vivid and we're going to be it and we're having a blast. But by the time we're in kindergarten, not supposed to daydream anymore. Our imagination gets to be squashed. But as an adult, most of the time our imagination, especially if there's been any trauma, is used to avoid pain. It's used to prepare ourselves for something bad to happen because I've got to prevent it. So I got to think about all the bad stuff that can happen. If anybody has a child or a friend who didn't call when they were supposed to, didn't show up home when they were supposed to, you know what your imagination does.
Right.
It goes to the negative, but that's not what it's there for. So teaching how to learn how to be able to let go of all of these feelings, to be able to let go of fear and stress and worry and the preparation for other shoe to drop, to gain more clarity, confidence, freedom, and fulfillment is what this workshop is about, and these gifts. And it's absolutely free, guys. This is an hour and 15-minute workshop, and it's absolutely free. And it started back in books that I've read from the 1920s. So it's intriguing to discover that these gifts are there, and watching them transform my client's life has been amazing.
That's cool. Well, that's awesome. And it's really great that you're offering a free workshop for people to help them kind of tap into that, because you're right. Most of us use our imagination to imagine the worst possible things that can happen instead of using it in a playful and joyful way and imagining how wonderful and awesome life could be when everything starts going our way, because we're manifesting everything we want in our lives, and we're, working towards our dreams and our goals. So yeah, we do that a lot. So tell us a little more about your podcast though. So you have the podcast, You Were Designed for Greatness, which The title is awesome. Tell us a little more about that, because I know you do have guests on, but what kinds of
Yes.
topics do you cover on your podcast?
The topic is a wide variety because it's me and women sharing their stories. But the primary thing is, how do we overcome stuff? How do we rise above stuff? And so it is tools and tips and stories of overcoming adversity and how they did it. And one of the goals of the podcast is I wanted busy people to be able to do it. And so the podcast is 15 minutes. And so just about anywhere you drive is about 15 minutes or more. You can listen to one or two, depending on where you're going, and being able to listen to them and be encouraged without feeling like you've got an hour podcast and you don't have time for it. That was one of my goals when I set up the podcast. So there's all kinds of women's from all over the world, all different kinds of stories, all different kinds of things that they're coming from. And then me also sharing as well, different resources and tips that I have learned personally to overcome. That's what it's about.
That sounds like an awesome podcast. So people need to go and check that out for sure. And then you're just doing so many things. You're coaching people
Mm-hmm.
and sharing your knowledge. And I know you have a blog on your website too, correct?
I do.
Yeah.
Yes, I have a blog that I do regularly as well. And that's something that's on my mind and inspirational for that particular month. Last month it was, or in June, whenever you're listening to this in June, it was about, I call it performance addictive, when we're addicted to performance and we've got to prove our worth. And what does that do for us? Or being, so busy, but we never get everything done. So what does all of that look like? The control issues, the self-esteem issues. And so that's what my blog was about. And then in my private Facebook group where I do weekly videos to go deeper into that as well. And there's all of those resources and links to find out about it is on my website.
Awesome. Well, we are going to put the link to your website in the show notes. So if
Yeah.
anybody wants to go and check all of that out, which I highly encourage you to do, it will be right there. So you can just click on it, and we'll, of course, give the name of that in a few minutes. But tell me, what has been maybe one of the things that you have enjoyed the most about working with people and helping them turn their baggage into luggage?
Watching their lives transform, where they go from anxiety and fear and worry and not trusting themselves or others, to the picture of someone with their hands raised in the sunshine on looking over water with just confident and peace and deep breaths, and going from one to the other is just freaking amazing. And being able to watch that transformation, and to know that I was a part of it, I think is my favorite thing. I know where the source for my life is, but watching them transform and watching them grow, and then I keep that relationship. We support each other. It isn't, if that's comfortable for them, we keep going, because I want to build friends and relationships. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I love that. So, what on your podcast do you think also was maybe your most memorable guest, that if people were like, I want to start listening to this podcast, is there an episode that you recommend the most because you're like, this stood out to me as maybe I got the most aha moments out of it, or that, because I know we interview so many, so
Yes.
many.
Oh, that's hard. It's
Yeah,
like
there's always
asking,
some that stand out, there's just some that stand out above the rest.
yeah, I'm trying to think about that for a second. It reminds me of me going out to my flower garden and having to choose which flower I love the most. It's Let's see.
Yeah, I put you on the spot there.
You
Sorry.
did. I think my podcast, my last one was one that, but of course that was my last one. So I really remember,
Right.
I remember going into that and what that was like. But let me just look at my list real quick while you're, because I've got a list of all of that and see what might come up for me. One of my favorite sayings while I look at this, that one of my coaches gave to me is to get up every day and proceed as if success is inevitable.
No,
And that's one of my favorite quotes. I say it to myself often because it has made such a big difference in my life. And my two podcasts, 93 and 94, in my podcast, those two women really stood out. 93 was Danielle Benrock, and she was talking about how to deal with our inner critic,
Yeah.
and her story of abuse. And then Debbie Pickus was 94, and she was talking about something similar. She starts the podcast with, well, I said, tell me about yourself, Debbie. And she said, I was in an abusive relationship for 20 years. She said, every day I heard you're stupid, you're fat, you're ugly, you'll never amount to anything. And one day, as the abuser was speaking to me, as I was looking at myself in the mirror, he says, I decided I have to quit talking to myself like that. And so you're like, what? We think it's some man,
Right.
as she's leading up to this. And I'm like, what? And so it was just a really cool the way that she started the podcast and then shared how it's similar, but sometimes we're our own worst enemy is what I believe about myself.
Yeah.
Somebody else probably said it to me,
Right.
but what hurts me is I believe it.
Right.
And so those two podcasts would be great ones to check out.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. And wow, that is really sometimes we are our own abuser because we perpetuate the lies that we heard and we just
Right.
continue it going in our life. Wow, that almost gives me chills to think about that. Well, this has been such a great conversation. And if anyone wants to go over and check out You Were Designed for Greatness, or maybe they want to check out your free workshop that you're getting ready to offer, check out your blog, what's the best way for them to follow you or to reach you?
The easiest way is my website, and the website address is the letter I, vibrantliving.com. There's a tab that says workshops. There's a tab that says Vibrant Women, which is my Facebook group you can check out, and blog and podcast. All the tabs are there with all of the episodes. You can also find my podcast on all the platforms.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Donna, for being here today and for sharing a little bit of your wisdom with us and for everything that you're doing, because I always believe that, people who are out there doing the work, helping others heal, that's a tremendous thing. So thank you for doing that for other women.
It is my pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank all of you for being here with us today. As always, if you like this podcast, please subscribe. Please leave a positive review from wherever you're listening. And the greatest compliment you can pay me is to share this podcast with anyone else you think might benefit. You can follow me on social media. And if you'd like to work with me, just go to melissaoatman.com. As always, I am sending you guys so much love and light. I hope you have a beautiful day today from wherever you're listening. And I will talk to you soon. Bye, guys.